Bulgaria was the winner of the Eurovision Song Contest this year. And we now have our host city for 2027. And the winner is, drumroll please, Burgas. Yeah! And I do have it on very good authority that you are indeed supposed to pronounce it like a scary mafia boss, Burgas. But if you're a big Eurovision fan, you will have known about all that already. And if you're anything like me, you will have been straight on the internet trying to work out the logistics. How do we get there? What are the flights like? Are they expensive? What about hotels? What about how you get from the Euro Club and Village to the stadium? Will there be shuttle buses in the middle of the night after the Euro Club? How expensive is this going to be? What's the programme going to be like? What about Bulgarian influences on this year's contest? What's going to happen? And most importantly, am I going and are you going? Let's try and answer as many of those questions as possible, or at least give it our best guess. What about flights then? Well, I was straight online and I must say I was a bit concerned. I know it's very early yet and we do have the best part of a year until Burgas 2027, but most of the flights that I could find from the UK were expensive and not direct to Burgas. There were quite a few flights where you change in Vienna or Munich or somewhere like that. There are of course other airports in Bulgaria you could fly into. Varna is one of the options, but that's about a 2-hour drive from Burgas, or about 3 hours on the train. And of course there is Sofia, the capital city, the city where everyone thought Eurovision was going to be next year. The flights into Sofia that I found were way cheaper than to Burgas or Varna. However, it is an absolute mission away. It's about 3 hours and 40 minutes to drive if you hired a car, or if you got the train, you're looking at the best part of 6 hours. Now, organisers are saying that more flights are going to be put on, so the advice that I'm going to be following is don't book flights just yet. What about hotels in Burgas? Well, if you've got 25,000 euros just lying around, great news for you, because there are a grand total of about 3 hotels in Burgas available for Eurovision week. Now, anyone who has been to the Eurovision Song Contest before knows not to panic about hotels just yet. Normally, you can get far better, cheaper deals much closer to the time. However, lots of people, including me, do like to have a bit of a fallback option in case there isn't a decent cheap one that's nice and local available at the time. And so for probably 99.9% of contest goers for 2027, Burgas at this moment in time is going to be out of reach. However, there are options. Burgas is of course right on the Black Sea, so there are resorts like Sunny Beach, Sozopol, Nesebar, and some other sort of small towns and villages up and down the coast. What I've seen quite a few people do is book package holidays at places like Sunny Beach. So they'll go for an all-inclusive hotel with a nice pool so they can enjoy the sunshine, but then they'll hire a car or get a shuttle bus down to Burgas for Eurovision events. That's one way of doing it. However, the trouble is these towns and villages are not a short hop away. They're, a good half an hour, 40 minutes in the car, most of them. Organisers are saying that they're going to be putting on lots of shuttle buses. However, how many are they going to be putting on to the small towns and villages after the Euro Club finishes at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning? If you're stumbling out of the club in the wee small hours, you do not want to be missing that bus. To be honest, I'm pretty tempted to just hire a car for that week and forget about having a beer while I'm over there, at least until I know the shuttle buses are reliable late into the night. It doesn't look like they've got much there in the way of trains and trams that are going to be regular ferrying people around. So I think we're going to be relying on these shuttle buses and just hoping that Bulgaria does the job for us. What about the Eurovision Village and the Euro Club? Where are they going to be? How close are they going to be to the stadium? How easy is it going to be to get from one to the other and back to your hotel on the outskirts in some village in the middle of nowhere? Who knows? However, I have asked AI where the Euro Club and Village are likely to be. So, good news according to Google Gemini, the village and club are likely to be very close to one another. Just let me reiterate, this is not official. Nothing has been announced about the Euro Club and the village. This is just AI's best guess at the moment. So according to Google Gemini, the Eurovision village is likely to be at the Sea Garden. And this is what it says. The Eurovision village is highly expected to be placed within or directly adjacent to the Sea Garden, in Bulgarian Morska Gradina. Hope I've not butchered that pronunciation there. So why is it likely to be at the Sea Garden? Well, there is a 5-kilometre stretch of paved walking trails and seaside views. It is Burgas's premier open-air cultural hub, capable of hosting the massive free crowds, outdoor staging and public viewing screens required for the village. What about the turquoise carpet, the big event to introduce all the artists to the city and kick off Eurovision week? Well, for one thing, it will not be the turquoise carpet next year. That's because Moroccan Oil has ended its sponsorship of the contest. That's something I know some people will be very happy about. So it'll be either a red carpet or some other coloured carpet. But where's it going to be? Well, according to AI, it is likely to be at one of two places. Either the central paths heading toward the iconic pier of Burgas or the historic Old Town. Those are the primary rumoured backdrops for the opening ceremony. What about the Euro Club? Well, that is likely to be either at Port of Burgas or the Old Town. If AI is to be believed, then that is great news for Eurovision fans intending to go to Bulgaria next year. That's because the village and the club would be fairly close together, walking distance for most people. And it would definitely be welcome news for those people who went to Vienna and were left frustrated after organisers initially said the club and the village are going to be right next door to each other, only to move the club to the other side of the city. So people were having to make mad treks in the middle of the night or mess around moving their accommodation so they could be close to the club rather than the village. But as I said, that's just what AI says. It's not official, so you might want to hold your horses before booking stuff. One more thing about hotels, which I ought to touch on. The day Burgas was announced, I was trying to work out all different ways. How could I do this? Do I want to try and stay in Burgas or up the road do a package holiday? Do I want to stay in a camper van and drive all the way and try and do it that way? How can I do this? How can I do this in the cheapest, most fun way? One of the things I did look at was, as I mentioned earlier, the package holiday plan. I was online looking for package holidays in Sunny Beach, Nesebar, Sozopol, and all the little towns and villages up and down the coast. I did find a good number of decent looking hotels at reasonable prices for an all-inclusive 8 or 9 days. However, after looking on the day Burgas was announced, I looked again 2 or 3 days later and the prices had started climbing. Hotels that I'd seen for sort of £800, £900 were starting to creep up to £1,200, £1,300. So I think it's just probably a case of sit tight, don't panic. It's just been announced, so the prices are going to climb up. Wait for everyone to chill out a bit and pay less attention to Eurovision week, and maybe, fingers crossed, some decent deals will come our way. What about the Euro Club and the Euro Village? What are the lineups going to be like this time? Well, realistically, hardly any of that stuff is going to be announced until way into next year. Feb, March, April, maybe some of it even in May during Eurovision month. What I'm hoping for, as someone who's been mad into Eurovision for probably the last 3 or 4 years, who's been to the contest a few times and lots of gigs around it, I'm hoping for something a bit different and certainly a stronger lineup in both the Village and the Euro Club next year. In Vienna, I didn't go to Vienna this year. I was planning on going. However, I had a bad back and was a bit ill and stuff, so I didn't bother in the end. However, had the lineups been a bit stronger, I might have found the fortitude to force myself onto that plane. I'd have thought in Vienna they would have pulled the stops out a bit more to get some real big names. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding the contest, political stuff, which puts lots of people off, puts lots of artists off wanting to be involved in it. But I thought the lineups of previous artists in the club and in the village were so much weaker than they were in Basel the year before, and Malmö as well. But fingers crossed that Bulgaria will do it for us. It's their first time hosting, so I'm sure they will do everything in their power to make it absolutely brilliant. I wonder what else they'll put on. In the last couple of years, we've had things like the karaoke tram, we had a Eurovision cruise on the Danube. Maybe they will put on a mega Eurovision cruise on the sea. Maybe they will build an enormous sandcastle of Verka Serduchka. Who knows? Anything could happen. What about Bulgarian culture? I know next to nothing about it other than Bangaranga. AI has helped us out with guessing where the Eurovision village and club is going to be, so let's see if it can educate us about Bulgaria. Okay, so according to AI, Bulgaria is famous for producing roughly 85% of the world's rose oil. Who knew? It's also famous for inventing the Cyrillic alphabet and housing one of Europe's oldest nations, established in 681 AD. It is also renowned for its unique yogurt, the stunning Rila Monastery, and popular Black Sea beach resorts, of which we will be frequenting, I'm sure. So yeah, it's famous for yogurt, Bulgarian yogurt. I like the Greek yogurt. Might as well try some Bulgarian as well, see if it's any good. So there we have it. That's a taste of what could possibly be going on next year. Am I going to go to Burgas in 2027? At the moment, I just don't know. My sense is that logistically it does look quite awkward, and I'm a bit concerned about getting home from the club late at night. I'm sure once you get out there, compared to some European nations, it will be fairly decent value for money. However, I'm just wondering, flights, hotels, tickets, getting about in possibly Ubers at stupid o'clock at night, is it going to start getting expensive? I don't know. To be honest, I'm not expecting to make a definite decision about Eurovision 2027 until sometime early next year. I think for me, honestly, it could hinge on national selection season, whether we actually get some decent songs. I did enjoy the 2026 contest, however, I thought it was a good spectacle and a good show, but not many of the songs have I got them on repeat. So I'm hoping 2027 will provide lots more streamable songs and loads of great entertainment. But I suppose even if you do go for a sunny beach package holiday and it's too awkward getting up and down the road to Burgas for Eurovision, you could at least stay in your hotel with all the British tourists and drink beer and eat egg and chips. What are you going to do? Are you happy that it's going to be in Burgas rather than Sofia? Are you going to go? What's your plans? How are you going to work all this out? Have you made a decision yet? Or are you kind of like me, you're a bit umming and ahhing whether to go or not? Let me know in the comments. That's all for this video. If you did enjoy watching, please do like and subscribe. I do plan on making some more videos ahead of Eurovision 2027 in Burgas, Bulgaria. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.